Hey everyone, patrons, and eventually everyone else. So I finished the Barbenheimer short and I need to take apart the set, but I thought before I do, I thought I would shoot a quick little behind the scenes video to show you guys the setup, just kind of take you through that because I haven't really done one of these before and I thought it might be fun. So let's just dive into it. Alright, so here we have the whole set. It's nothing too fancy, but I think just fancy enough in the right ways that are visible on set. As you can see, I've got some of those. It's like a, I don't know how to describe it. It's a 1x4, but it's made up of 1x2s that are connected by a hinge piece, so you can do these funky angles with Lego bricks, and that's how I was able to get the angled walls for the theater. I kind of based the theater design a little bit off of the one from Day at the Theater. It's definitely not a one-to-one recreation, but it's sort of inspired. I mean, the gray tones. I think in the original one I had a curved or kind of an angled entrance in as well. So there's bits of inspiration taken from that. I kind of wanted it to be a little bit of a throwback where I could. Here we have the excellent posters designed by Reddit user Lord of the Bricks and Instagram user 4Stud. Check them out. They're pretty great. Yeah, so they're in some window pieces here. I think I got lazy. I got a little lazy and I didn't want to like build. I needed something to black out the set behind them because the posters don't completely fill the windows, as you can see. So I just built these little gray walls. Oh, well, there you go. To put behind them just to kind of black that space out. As you can see, the theater itself is not really much more than a couple of facades. We have the concession stand / ticket booth. It's pretty simple. I didn't even really do much for the signs. I just kind of scribbled aimlessly on them with a Crayola marker. The one unique thing I think I got going here is the marquee, which is kind of one of those it's sort of fancy builds. You got some tiles and a slope tile. Yes. Okay, so the blue marks are some tracking marks that I added with another marker. Those are there because I am doing a practical camera movement with this monstrosity of a lens, which I'll also cover in a bit. But since I'm doing a practical move, I needed some reference for when I eventually did a digital marquee or added the now playing Oppenheimer and Barbie to it digitally. Which, in retrospect, I kind of wish I just sort of printed them out on white tape. But yeah. Next is lighting. So I typically don't do this, but for this one, I actually left the overhead light on. Mostly on accident. I got a few frames into the animation before I realized I'd accidentally left it on, and I didn't really want to redo it, so I just kind of rolled with it. My primary light sources were this overhead with the tube light. Thank goodness I remembered what it's called. Yep, there you are. And I have it set to very, very cool. Yeah, well, actually, what is the color temperature on it? Let's see if we can get that here. Well, it's a little upside down, but 9,000K. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. This is my primary fill light. This is our sunlight. I have this LED panel with the barn doors as the light, basically for the indoors. And then I had this roof piece here. This roof piece here acting as the shade for the top part of the theater. And inside here, I have a couple of practical brick stuff lights rigged to light this inside part of the set here. Let me see if I can get a good angle on them. There, yeah, there you are. Okay, so yeah, so I got one up on the ceiling there, like I showed you before, and the other one, it's a little hard to see. Let me see if I can flip my phone and get the lower angle. There you go. I have a couple of little mini LEDs stuck in. Okay, so it's the connecting piece that connects the marquee to the wall. It is a 1x4 that has Technic piece that has 3 holes in it, and I'm basically just running a couple of lights into those. You can see the wires poking through the wall there, and I have those just to illuminate the entry hall here. So for this project, I am testing out a brand new lens I got. It's an Aster Hori. I think it's a 25 millimeter. But yeah, it is a probe lens. Yeah, it's really good for getting up close without having to use a whole lot of, using a lot of close-up filters. It has a lot of like practical applications for getting into tight spaces, which is really good for the scale of Lego in particular. So let's go ahead and turn on, just sort of see what the shot looks like. It's probably a lot different now, but let's have a look at what the shot looks like. Yeah, okay, so this is what it looks like in camera live. Obviously, it's shifted quite a bit from the last shot of the actual animation, but just to give you an idea of what this, sorry for the shake, translates to in camera. Here's my ISO and my aperture settings, or sorry, shutter speed. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I attempted a camera move in this film, and it's not like camera moves are really foreign to me. It's just this is a brand new lens, and I'm kind of seeing what it's like to work with it compared to more traditional lenses. I tested out putting it on like a little bit of a pad. I liked it for reasons. I didn't like it for other reasons. I enjoyed it because it gives me a little bit of flexibility in terms of like I can kind of tinker with and tap the position of the lens just to get it right perfectly where I need it. And the cushion is kind of a nice way to sort of hold it in place. But on the other hand, it can also be a little bit of a pain, especially when I was doing the camera movement. Like the beans inside of the bag might shift, so it might move the lens up and down kind of when I needed it to. So it was a little bit of a double-edged sword. So I might, for my next project, I might try it without the bag just to see how that goes. I mostly did it because I didn't know if gravity was going to take over the lens at some point and kind of cause it to droop over the course of the shot, or if I needed to leave a hot set, which I did a couple of times. It was mostly as a safety precaution. And here is the Premiere file. Let's go ahead and take a look. So there's not a whole lot going on with the video. I constructed most of it in Adobe After Effects, actually. Except for the credits, a couple of layers of stuff here. See, I got a pink matte, layer of text, and I actually generated the created by logos here. I actually used an online generator that made Barbie text in that specific font. Pardon me. So yeah, there's my logo. Yeah, other than that, not a whole lot going on here with the video. Yeah, like I said, most of it was done in After Effects, but we'll get into that a little bit later. For now, let's go ahead and review the audio. That's probably the most interesting thing here. I knew I wanted like a little bit of a pause to start the video. I didn't want to jump right into the credits here, but I didn't want it to just be a total blank space. And this sounded kind of lo-fi enough to feel of the time period of the era, and also it's got kind of that Geiger countery sort of feel to it as well. So I thought it was appropriate. Blends into the music. I found on Epidemic Sound it sounds vaguely reminiscent of Ludwig Göransson's stuff on Oppenheimer, or enough that at least I feel like it makes you think Oppenheimer. So what I've been doing as of late in Premiere is I reserve a couple of audio track specifically for dialogue because I want to mix that in a specific way other from the rest of the sound. So these are the two. So these are tracks A and B, or 1 and 2, I suppose. These are the dialogue for Ben and Andy. I have an EQ on them. I've done a little bit of research and some diving into a few YouTube tutorials, and this is the way I've started mixing my recorded dialogue into my videos. I don't know. For me, I like the way it sounds. It feels like it makes the audio feel like it's more like it's coming out of the video rather than just an audio track placed on top of it, if that makes any sense. It kind of blends. It feels like, to me, I mean, at least, it blends it into the video and makes it feel a little more natural. But yeah, anyway, these are the settings that I've been utilizing. I like the way it sounds. Yeah, and I use that on the two dialogue tracks here. So let's see, yeah. So this is all I think Andy's dialogue. let's pull these two up. Yeah, so these are all Andy's dialogue. A2 is all Ben's dialogue. I got a little bit of a pan going on this one because he's supposed to be coming from off-center. Oops, no. No effects controls, here we go. Yeah, so I got a little bit of a pan. Pardon me. Yeah, so I got a little bit of a pan going on here. Going from right to center. Pardon me. Yeah, something in there. Because I needed the idea of Ben to be coming in off screen from that direction, so I thought the sound could help that. And now for After Effects. All right, you're gonna have to bear with me as we attempt to take a deep dive. This particular file has kind of run rampant with my computer's processing power, so we're gonna see what it will and won't let me get away with. Okay, so here we have the original footage unprocessed. Here are the tracking markers I pointed out from the set before. Those were used to track on the marquee that you see right here onto the marquee right here. So these parts were actually relatively easy, and so were these parts once you get to here. I think I actually started in the reverse because I had a clearer shot of the tracking points themselves. So the problem that I was running into was that when it was doing this track backwards, when it ran into this part right here with the camera movement, these tracking points would get pretty wildly thrown off because it was trying to compensate on its own for the pretty extreme change in the movement, and it wasn't always perfect. Because it got so wildly off track during this part, that by the time it got to this other easy section at the front end of the camera movement, the points were so far off that they had nothing to track onto, and the whole thing just became a huge, enormous mess, and I had to redo it. And the loading times on this were especially brutal, especially when you're having to let the computer do its track. But what I realized is I had to kind of sit and babysit the entire thing until it got to about this point, and then I had to just by hand motion track or place the tracking points just for this one section. And then by the time it got to here, I was able to let it just do it via AI or whatever algorithms they got going on. So that was a big lesson learned, but that is how I was able to get the marquee here. Back to the composition. How I was able to get this marquee to track and follow the bricks during the camera movement with relative accuracy. I had to roto brush the area around Andy's hat where it would obstruct the words on the marquee. Now, I had two options going into this. That I could do traditional masking, just frame by frame by hand, which is something I've done before, or I could utilize the Roto brush here in After Effects, which is something that I opted to do. Now, in theory, the Roto brush should be a quicker solution, because basically you draw a mask around like the rough area that you need isolated, and After Effects utilizes its own AI algorithmic magic to essentially, let's see through here, essentially kind of guess where that spot is going to be, even in movement, frame by frame. And I didn't need it to be perfect. I only needed the hat area to mostly be correct. The problem, or at least that I kept running into, is that not only, I mean, the Roto brush takes a fair bit of power, processing power to work with, and so my computer, I have a 4th generation i7, and I run a 3070 Ti graphics card. So it's not the most powerful computer, but I mean, it's got some specs that are pretty good. But it still takes, a fair chunk of time to just render a single frame. The problem that I often run into in After Effects is that if I need to like go back and check something, or if I need to like make a quick adjustment, or I don't know, switch between a different composition, forward and back, if I don't let it render and then freeze it, it has to re-propagate every single time. And that basically means it has to like re-render its own like masking data, I think. But all I know is that it has to like basically redo the whole process of like having to go through it frame by frame. So that was by far the most time consuming thing, and I think the thing that took me the longest to get through. So my big tips for using the Roto brush is break your source up into little chunks to make it easier to process, and utilize the freeze button once you're sure you have what you need. Here I had a little more fun. Yeah, I played a little bit with the temperature and the tint. So I played a little bit with the white balance, some more with the shadows, highlights, and the whites. Did a little work with some of the color wheels and the highlights and the shadows. Some what do you call these again? Some curves. So it looks like I'm reducing some of the highlights while trying to maintain the rest of the palette. I think I got I did a little bit of a selective coloring here as well for some of the pinks and the purples. I don't know which one am I affecting here. Oops. I'm sure it's doing something important. Anyway, some more hue selectors. What are you doing? Oh, okay, yeah. This one's kind of bringing up the pinks on the poster and kind of brightening the kid up back there. What else? Oh, and then a little more color wheel work, mostly in the mids and the highs. Here are the opening titles. Again, I think it's all on a it's all on a no, it's not. There's not even a background. Yeah, I needed it transparent so that I could fade it into the video in Premiere. So yeah, in the Premiere file, I just imported this After Effects project file rather than just exporting it as like an alpha video. I figured it might just be easier to do that with just with just a composition that has text in it rather than a composition that has footage in it. Sometimes when I try to do that with Premiere, it's just a nightmare. But yeah, okay. So for this title here, just a real simple July 22nd, 2023. The fonts using the classical Christopher Nolan font. I'm pretty sure it's Gotham, but let me just double check. What we got here? Yep, Gotham. All right, and see, we got the time 2:17. I kind of implying that like the showtime
for the movie is like 220 or 230, somewhere in there. Maybe even 215. Maybe they are a little bit late already. But let's see. How did I get? Let's see. Where are you? Where are you? No, not you. Not you. Wait, here you are. Okay. So yeah. So it's just simple keyframing of the text here. Counting down from 40 something up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. I didn't even show that in the final video. But yeah, just a simple timer. Trying to match the layout style of the Oppenheimer trailers. And I thought it'd be fun. This was almost even kind of a last minute joke idea I had. I think originally I was just gonna just start in on Andy in black and white, but I think I realized by the time that the video was ready to be coming out, like the movie had been out for like a month, and it felt like I'd kind of missed the window. So I feel like having the date at the start kind of gives it context, which I don't think that's a bad thing. But anyway, that's more or less everything that went into making this 55-second little short film. But yeah, I hope this was interesting. I hope this was insightful. Hope you got something out of it. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.